Hey sports fans, the Moral Leader coming at you live and direct from the Center of Moral Leadership in Los Angeles, the Hovel. And I just did something very controversial in the Alexander Technique world. I bought the domain name for my future Alexander Technique teaching practice, feelinggood.me. So I checked out, is drfeelgood.com, is that available? And no Dr. Feelgoods were available. So I just went with feelinggood.me. And here's why this is controversial. Because Alexander Technique teachers, generally speaking, they aren't about capturing certain feelings. Alexander Technique's not primarily about feelings. So I've got a domain name for my Alexander practice about feelings. But then I'm just a guy who loves so much. It's just like my heart is just so big. I've just got so much love inside of me that I've just like burst out of the boundaries of traditional Alexander Technique practice, and I've done something radical, feelinggood.me. So here's the reason why Alexander Technique teachers generally don't trust feelings, because you don't feel your way to the Alexander Technique, you think your way to the Alexander Technique. You think about freeing your neck, and you keep coming back to it. It's not just like a one-shot deal that, oh, I freed my neck and now I can go on to thinking about Beethoven's Ninth Symphony and whether the Lakers will repeat the NBA championship this year, and will we have a 2011 football season, and oh, maybe I'll check back in with my neck. Now, freeing the neck is something that you keep checking back in with in the Alexander Technique world, and you keep seeing if you can free it more and more and more. So I'll think about freeing my neck, and then I'll think my head forward and up. The reason why we think our head forward and up, because almost everyone has the tendency to tip the head back and down, which then compresses the neck. The neck has more joints than any other part of the body. So when you compress and tighten your neck, then you inevitably send ripples of compression and tension throughout your body. Like you can tense your foot or your hand, and it won't necessarily send ripples of tension and compression throughout your body. But if you tighten and compress your neck, you inevitably tighten and compress whole swaths of your body. So that's why the neck is so important in Alexander Technique thinking. There are more joints there than any other part of your body. So imagine like your head was a bowling ball. Just imagine holding a bowling ball. Like it weighs about 20 pounds. So imagine holding a bowling ball straight out like that. So how long do you think you could hold a 20-pound bowling ball straight out like that with comfort and ease? Versus how long do you think you could hold a bowling ball like this? Which would be easier? Right? This is a lot easier than holding it 20 pounds out like this. So imagine going through life where your head is poised on top of your neck and your spine, and your whole head, neck, back are in relationship. They're in a good, harmonious, poised relationship. So poised means the head is balanced on top of a lengthened spine. So I think that tends to make me feel good. And I think it would tend to make you feel good if you went through life with a balanced and harmonious and poised relationship with your head poised on top of a lengthened spine. So it's not about a position. We're not trying to get like a set position for your head in Alexander Technique. We're about a relationship between the head, neck, and the back. We don't want the head tipping back and compressing the spine and compressing the neck. We want the head floating poised on top of the torso, and that is achieved by continually thinking about the neck, freeing it up of unnecessary tension, and thinking the head forward and up, which sounds like we're giving directions here, and I guess we are. But really all these directions are saying is let go of your habitual tendency to tip the head back and down. So what distinguishes Alexander Technique from all the other transformational systems of which I'm aware is that Alexander Technique is a technique of subtraction. We're really about letting go of all the bad habits we started developing once we started going to school. You notice that cultures where they don't sit behind a desk very much, they don't tend to have the horrible deformations of use and just the bad use of themselves and the crippled that people in Western culture have. So once we started going to school, we started compressing and tensing and tipping the head back and totally deforming our torso and engaging in what F.M. Alexander called debauched kinesthesia. So when you learn to let go of these habits, that's Alexander technique, these habits of needless compression and needless tightening, so that you can then move with less tension, you can then live with less tension. It's not like tension is all bad. You do need some tension or you just like collapse in a puddle. But what we want to get rid of in the Alexander technique approach is unnecessary tension. So when we talk about thinking about the back lengthening and widening, what we're really talking about is letting go of our habits to tighten and compress. Like I used to always like tighten my shoulders, so my shoulders were always aching and my back was always aching, and I was tipping my head back and I was a mess. I was easily triggered, so I was kind of like in this permanent fight or flight startle response with like this. So once we learn to let go of that, think the head forward and up, free the neck, think about the back lengthening to widen, think about the length from our hips to our knees, from our knees to our feet, from our shoulders to our elbows, from elbows to our hands, thinking about our hands lengthening and widening. Let's just take one of those examples. Let's just think about the instruction to think about the face lengthening to widen. Really all that's about is letting go of the habit of compression. It's like when I'm driving, I often start squinting and scrunching and scrouching and tensing my face. When I think about length and width in my face, really all that's happening is that I'm telling myself to let go of my habits of compression, needless tension, tightening and scrunching in my face. So too, when you think about your back lengthening to widen, really all you're doing is thinking about letting go of your habitual habits of needlessly tensing and compressing your back. When you think about your arm lengthening to widen, coming out of your back, thinking about length from your elbow to your hand, from your shoulder to your elbow, really that's just sending instructions from your brain to your body to let go of your habits of needless and habitual compression. So really Alexander technique is a technique of subtraction, letting go of the bad habits that we've developed since we started going to school, so that we can return to ideally the good use that we had as children. And then when you have that good use, you feel good, you feel tranquil. So every emotion is only possible, generally speaking, with a particular alignment of the musculature. So if you're aligned a certain way, like this, it's going to be really hard to feel joy. On the other hand, it's going to be really easy to feel angry or disgusted or tense or frightened or out of control if you're like this. But if you think about freeing your neck and directing your head forward and up, it's virtually impossible to enter any of those out of control emotions. It's very difficult to feel anger, disgust, hatred, rage, contempt, while you've got a free neck and the head is balanced on top of the spine, because you're continually sending it directions forward and up. You may indeed still feel anger, rage, depression, fright, but these emotions will take on a whole different quality. It will be like they've been lightened, and they're much more in control. If you're in control of your neck, if your neck is free and your head is balanced on top of your torso, it's highly unlikely you're going to experience the out of control emotions, or feeling out of control, or just overcome by rage or fright, despair, anger, depression, or disgust or contempt. Like I remember one of my last girlfriends was just had so much contempt, and it was just like locked into her body. She's like, Ugh. And I don't think she could ever let go of this unnecessary contempt that she had for all men, basically, because of her lousy relationship with her father. I don't think she could ever learn to let go of this habitual habit of contempt for men just through talk therapy. I think she'd have to learn to let go of the unnecessary tension that she carried around with her. And then she might have more success with therapy to let go of this needless contempt. So if you're filled with needless hatred, needless rage, needless contempt, needless disgust, in addition to talk therapy, I think Alexander technique would be really helpful, because many of our emotions are just locked in our body. And along with many of our beliefs, I think many of our beliefs are simply needless habitual muscular tension. Now, when I was able to let go of a lot of needless tension that I carried around with me, I was able to let go of a lot of needless beliefs that I'd taken on. And I was much more free to encounter the world as it is rather than as how I perceive it. So, in my opinion, when your head is balanced on top of your torso, you go through life with good use, and your neck is free, and you're thinking your head forward and up,